You are listening to the IoT for All Media Network.
Absolutely. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about the smart spaces topic in general. When people hear smart spaces, it could mean a whole number of things. But when you all talk about it, what does just the high level term smart spaces mean to you? And why is it so important that we're focusing kind of on this area in the IoT space from a solution standpoint?
Yeah. So smart spaces are the tenants of buildings. That's the way we are segmenting that. But if you look at that, who are those companies? It's sport brands, it's telcos, it is banks, it is insurance companies. Typically, companies that have a good amount of people and a good amount of desks. And these companies have figured out that if they don't have an agenda that addresses employee health
Right.
and employee productivity, as well as sustainability,
Sure.
then in a few years, you will not be getting any new young college graduates joining your company because they don't want to work for companies that don't have a sustainability agenda or that don't have the interest of the employees' health in mind.
Sure.
So every company, big company knows that, and they're trying to find ways right now of how can we assure that we do these things for our employees and for the sake of our own company.
Right.
And in the end, because of sustainability, obviously also doing something good for this earth. You shouldn't forget that 40% of the carbon that is emitted every year comes from buildings.
Sure.
40%.
Wow.
And there's quite something we can do jointly by not having a lot of empty desks sitting around, but managing that effectively. And the CFO will love it too, because they can figure out, certainly now pre or post COVID, or towards the end of COVID, I would say, people are going to come back into an office maybe 3 to 4 days a week, but
Sure.
not 5 days a week anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So 20%, let's say 1 day a week is 20%, 20 to 40% of the desks generally will not be used anymore.
Right.
So if you still have them sitting around, you are renting space that you shouldn't be renting. And when you have that space that you're renting that you shouldn't be renting, you're also consuming a lot of carbon that way, right? You're heating it, you're lighting it up. And that is just absolutely a no-go any longer. And that a lot of companies are seeking the technology that can help them address those issues and those opportunities. And that's what we're right smack in the middle of.
So speaking about the building emissions, how are sensors and thus the internet as well helping to kind of curb that problem from your all's perspective?
So let's look at something in a usage model like desk occupancy.
Okay.
Like I said, people are coming in 3 to 4 days a week, working from home 1 to 2 days a week. On average is what is expected. You don't need your own desk anymore, but you have your preferences of either groups that you need to collaborate with, or your preference in terms of heating or type of cooling settings.
Right.
And when you come into the office, it will guide you to a desk that have either your colleagues that you need to work with or your temperature settings that you're there. And it is also known, and it manages that through a cloud. It's also known that, listen, we can as a company save probably 20% of the real estate because of the 100,000 employees, they won't be there every day. Right. And you can save yourself buildings or floors or something of that nature, not having to rent them, and certainly not heating or cooling them or lighting them up anymore.
Right.
That's what these desk sensors help a lot with. But also look at the health. I'm not sure if you're aware, but if you're sitting in a meeting room that is intended for 10 persons, and you're sitting there with 10 persons for about an hour, and if the ventilation is poor, then the state of mind of those 10 individuals is the same as they would have had about 2 glasses of wine to drink.
Wow.
That's how much they are affected by the lack of sufficient oxygen.
Interesting.
And that's also what these carbon dioxide detectors
Right.
can simply measure. And then ventilations obviously needs to kick in order to make sure
Right.
that people have a productive time together and a healthy time too.
Yeah. That's super fascinating. I would never have expected that, or really thought through the details. That's
Yeah.
crazy that it's 2 glasses of wine kind of equivalent for 10 people in that room if the ventilation is poor.
Exactly. People don't know and realize that. And
No, not at all.
if you spend a lot of, we all know that when we spend a lot of time with 2 glasses of wine in our body continuously or hours,
Right.
it's not that good to do that day after day after day.
Sure.
But it's the same, by the way, with carbon dioxide that you have an overdose of in these meeting rooms. It's really not healthy for you. There's now also books appearing that address that.
That's super fascinating. I didn't expect the conversation to go that route. That's super interesting.